Aloha, everybody. Here we are coming to you from our Kahuakai series, The Journey. And I've got a wonderful guest for everybody tonight, straight out of Iowa. Yeah.
Yep, straight out.
Ilima Young Dunn. How are you? Good?
Good. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. We got a short bout of rain that lasted about 10 minutes. The rest of the day was hot, so it's probably going to be humid later on tonight, but
Uh-huh.
life in the Midwest.
Yeah, I know. It's heavy. The heat is heavy.
So you are in Des Moines, correct? Or
Correct. West Des Moines, so right by Des Moines.
okay, right on, right on.
Yeah.
Well, we like to start everybody off at the very beginning. Tell us, Ilima, where were you born?
Okay, I was born in Norwalk, Iowa, which is very confusing for many people when they meet me and they learn my name and they're like, "Wait a minute, that doesn't sound right." But yep, my father's from Hawaii, so he's from Waimanalo on Oahu. So
Okay.
that explains how I got here.
Your mom's an Iowa person?
My mom is from Atumwa, Iowa. So my dad came over, met my mom, who's from Iowa, and they created me.
Right on, right on. Do you have brothers and sisters?
I do. I have an older brother, Kalani, and he also lives in Des Moines. So it's just the two of us.
Okay.
Yep.
Good, good. So born in Iowa, then tell
Mhm.
us how long before you actually got to visit Hawaii?
I was 12. I wasn't until I was 12. So my grandmother and grandfather had come over when we were little and they visited, but it wasn't until so my dad worked at John Deere, but in John Deere, where they make tractors, he's a welder. They would lay people off periodically. So he was laid off at one point in time. And so he went and got a job at the airlines. And this is when they had an airline called America West, and you could fly on standby. So that's how we could afford to get the whole family to Hawaii, was to fly on standby. And in those days, you had to dress up. So I remember being 12 and I had to wear like a skirt and pantyhose and heels and a nice shirt because you're representing the airline. Yeah. And no hoodie and no slippers. So we had to wait and just hope that there were enough seats available so we could get on. Same thing coming back. We didn't know if there would be any open spaces or not, but we were working class, and so that was the only way we could afford for all four of us to fly over.
Right.
So I was 12, and then I probably didn't go back again until I was in my early 20s. And now that I'm an adult and have children, we probably go every 2-3 years.
Okay. So do you have ohana in Hawaii?
I have a lot. Yeah. So my dad passed in 2004, but he has two brothers that are still alive and two sisters. And then they've all had children, and those children have had children. So everyone is still back in Hawaii.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm curious then, between birth and age 12, how much exposure to Hawaiian culture? Any at all or very little?
A little. So we have a small Hawaiian community in Norwalk. So a lot of people, when they find out I'm from Norwalk, they're like, "You know Jason Momoa?" I'm like, "Yeah, I went to school with Jason Momoa." He's like, "Oh no." He's about a year or two younger than I am. So we had some families like the Labons, the Apanas. And so my dad became friends with them. So that was kind of our little connection to Hawaii there. My dad would cook some, but the way that he was raised and the way that he thought was to blend in and assimilate. So he didn't teach me a whole lot about my culture. So I danced hula, for example. I've danced hula for 23 years. I had to learn that. Mostly my aunties taught me a little bit, but then I had to do a lot of research on my own take workshops from Kumu's. So a lot of the information that I know, I learned either doing the research myself or talking and listening to other people, but not directly from my father, because it was, you kind of want to blend in. That's how
Yeah.
you get along.
Ah, okay. That makes it tough a little bit though, doesn't it?
Very much so. Why they chose to name me Ilima, because that doesn't blend me in very well in Iowa. Yeah, I remember growing up, I was like, can we just call me Jennifer? Because everybody struggled with my name. Teachers struggle with my name. Anytime I went somewhere, still today, people struggle, unless I'm in Hawaii, struggle with my name. I mean, I love my name now, but growing up, it was difficult. And then it's still difficult for people in Iowa. They don't, I don't look like what they picture an Iowan to look like. So I always get, where are you from? And I say, Norwalk, Iowa. No, where are you really from? Iowa. Where are your parents from? And I know what they're trying to get at, but they're not asking me the correct way.
Yeah.
And you
So
can be
growing
really
up,
Iowa.
you had the name Ilima. Your brother went by Kalani.
Mhm. Yep,
Okay, so that would really kind of,
yep,
if
pretty
someone
clear.
knew both of you, they were like, okay, we're not in Iowa anymore. I don't think so.
Correct. Yeah, but we get mistaken a lot. So, especially in Iowa, a lot of people think I'm Latina or that I'm Native American, or rarely do they guess Hawaiian, because I just think they can't fathom, like, why would you ever leave Hawaii and come here?
So you mentioned kids. How many kids?
2 kids,
Okay, one boy, one
Kaikala.
girl.
So my daughter Kaikala, she's 16. So my auntie in Hawaii named her. And then my son's name is Akiwa. So Akiwa is an Aztec name. So my husband is Mexican and I'm Hawaiian. So my daughter has a Hawaiian name. Our son has an Aztec name.
What does your son's name mean?
Warrior.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Say the name again.
Akiwa. So it's Ekiwah. So he gets, so both of our children get to experience what I experienced growing up in Iowa, with people just butchering our names. Yeah.
So
But I
imagine
think
you're
it's a,
with your
go ahead.
husband's nationality, your kids are a little bit darker colored.
Yeah, so my daughter is probably darker than me or my husband, and actually darker, probably about the same shade as my father. So she gets mistaken a lot for different ethnicities. Uh, yeah, she actually had a little girl. She does an after school program, and a little girl said something about, I like you even though you're black. You know, some people just need some education, you know. But when we go back to Hawaii, even my cousins will be like, "Oh, she's darker than the locals." Oh my gosh, she is so dark. Like, oh,
um, at what age did your kids first go to Hawaii?
they both got to celebrate their very first birthdays in Hawaii. I know,
Oh,
aren't they lucky? Yeah,
wow.
yeah. I remember my daughter, when we brought her over, she ended up getting really sick. So she was cranky on the flight over, and I was walking, down the plane, because our seats are in the way back, because that's what we can afford. And I see Smokey Robinson, like in first class, and I'm like, and she was crying throughout the whole flight because she just did not feel good. She ended up getting, we found out she had roseola, which is a virus. But so as she was screaming, I did think, I'm gonna go ask Smokey to just serenade her to sleep. I never did, but I thought about it.
Wow, that's kind of a neat deal. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, my son, was it my son? Yeah, my son learned how to walk in Hawaii. So they both celebrated their first birthdays there with our ohana, which was nice.
and that's your dad's side, right?
Yep. Hmm.
So traditionally, first birthday, big hullabaloo.
Big hullabaloo. Yeah, probably not as big as maybe if we were born and raised there, but certainly a lot of family, a lot of food, a lot of music, a lot of dancing, the whole thing. Of course, my children remember absolutely none of it, but that's what photos are for.
Yeah, I mean, I've
Yeah,
constantly heard the question as to it's their first birthday. Why go all out when they're not going to remember any of it? But
why not?
yeah, it's a
Yeah,
tradition.
yeah, yeah. So our kids, I'm trying to think of how many times they've been there, probably at least a half dozen times.
Okay.
Certainly more. So they know so much more about the culture than I ever did growing up. And they've just been exposed to more, and I dance hula, so they're familiar with all of that.
During your childhood, did your father speak pidgin in the home?
He didn't until he would get around his friends. When he got around his friends, then the pigeon would come out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you
But
got some
he,
exposure that way then.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yep. And I think he probably would have liked to have taught us more, but again, it was like just in that generation and that time, um, you're trying to fit in. You don't want to be. And my husband who's Mexican, so his mother's Mexican, his father's white. Same thing. His mother and aunts and uncles grew up, and their parents spoke Spanish, but they wanted them to speak English because they wanted them to fit in. And so his Spanish, therefore, isn't isn't as strong as it could have been, because it was about, you need to fit in, we need to speak English, we need to be like everyone else, you don't want to stand out. And that was the way it was. And it's interesting when you look at like my aunties and my uncles. I like to point this out when I teach about Hawaiian culture. So I have a Uncle Stephen. My father's name was Robert. He went by Bob. I have an Uncle Mike. I have an Auntie Susan, an Auntie Edwina. So those are like the very kind of English American sounding names. And then I'm Ilima, my brother's Kalani. I have a cousin Nainoa, Kamakani, Kaena, Keone, from Bob, Mike, Stephen, Kamakani, Nainoa, Ilima, Aukai.
Yeah. So do you think it was the economy that made your dad move to Iowa?
He was in the Navy, and then
Oh,
he got out of the Navy and he went back to Hawaii, and he said he wasn't doing much but surfing. He just didn't feel like he was in a career. And so he had friends that had come over and they said, hey, we got computer software jobs here. You should come over here. So he just came, like sight unseen, didn't know, was just like, I'll try it. But that's what's been fascinating to me, is that the majority of my family, some people have left for a little bit, but they're all back there now. Like none of them have left the island like my dad did. He went all the way in, like Midwest. And so to the point where he spent more time living in Iowa than he did in Hawaii, because he, came over here. I was born in 76. So in the early 70s, he came over.
okay. Now, when your dad went up to Iowa, he wasn't married yet.
Nope. Mm-mm.
How did your parents meet? Do you know?
Yeah. My aunt, my mother's sister, lives down the street from my father's best friend, whose name is Mel Apana. So Mel had a party.
Okay.
So my aunt brought her sister to the party. And here's my mom's story. It's not really romantic, but she looked at him and said, he would make beautiful children.
Oh, okay.
So there you go. So that was love at first sight, I guess. He'll make pretty children. I want to make children with him.
Yeah. All genetics.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, he's the right height, good build.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
Good. Make good ones.
So tell us a little bit about your career. What do you do outside the house?
I'm a professor and a program chair for human services at DMAC. So DMAC is Des Moines Area Community College. I've been there for almost 18 years. So I have a bachelor's and master's degree in social work. So I practiced social work for years, and now I get to teach students who want to become social workers. So we're a 2-year associate program. So I have classes that I teach full time, and then I hire people to teach part time, and I develop curriculum and do all the other stuff that happens behind the scenes to make a program work.
Wow.
Yeah.
And in your downtime, hobbies?
Oh, I got too many. So Aloha Wind, dance hula with the halau. We meet every Sunday. Well, you missed it when you were down at Celebration, our shuttle bus, Holo Holo Ka'a. So my husband and I did that over COVID. We like stripped out it was an old church shuttle bus, stripped it out and redid it. And I didn't know how we were going to decorate it, but I just started taking stuff from my house. The next thing I know, I'm like, this is like a vintage Hawaiian bus, because that's what I have. That's the stuff that I have. So we do that. We have a booth at an antique mall called the Picker Nose. So we just kind of sell stuff. I wanted to get junk out of my house. So we sell stuff doing that. We got 2 dogs and 3 ferrets. So I'm usually,
Ferrets.
yeah, ferrets.
Oh, what does a
So
ferret eat?
they just eat dry food like you would feed a cat. That's not what they eat in the wild, but so
Yeah.
in Hawaii they have mongoose. It's like that.
Yeah, I've seen them. I just can't imagine them running around a house. So
Yep. So we like animals. So we do a lot of hiking and well, just whatever idea pops into my head. That's kind of what we do.
now your daughter, is she older or younger?
She's 16, so she's older. Yep. Yep. My son's 14.
Does she have any set plans for after graduation?
Well, they keep changing. So because I work at DMAC, she can go for free. So that's mom's plan. Her plan is to go away, move away, go far, far away. So I'm letting her figure that out. Like far away costs money. Here it's free. If you are paying for it, which you will be, you need to decide if you would like to pay a lot of money or no money.
Lay
But
it on the table for
yeah, so she'll have to come up with that because anything that I say it's a no because I said it. Yeah.
them. Aloha Wind, did you establish that?
I did not. Actually, there was another woman here who had it. It was really, really small. So I started belly dancing. So I've danced since I was 3. I've done some form of dancing, either ballet or jazz or tap. And then I took a belly dance class and I met this woman and she had also studied some hula. So she started teaching me hula. And then she had Aloha Wind, but it really wasn't functioning. And so we kind of like resurrected that. So that name came from her, and I've kind of actually kept that. And I know it's not, it doesn't match what traditionally you see halau names to be. But in Iowa, I found it's easier for people to Google search us, remember the name, find us on Facebook, book us for their event, that sort of a thing. So she kind of started it and then she moved away and then I just kind of added other people as I meet people. So, when people come over who dance hula in Hawaii, they'll Google halaus in Iowa. Aloha Wind pops up. And yeah, but it's fun because we're not like a traditional halau. So some people who've been in some like hardcore halaus, like beat you if you drop your implement kind of halaus, like they're shocked because we are drop your implement. No, I'm not going to do that. I wouldn't have a halal if I did that. There's not enough people.
Yeah. You know, years ago, I ran into a woman who was putting on an exhibition and she was belly dancing. And she said that her time belly dancing got her into doing Tahitian. Do you find it similar?
Mm-hmm. Yep, very similar. Movement of your hips are very similar. Of course, the names of the movements are different. Probably the major difference the couple major differences I found is hula is very bent knee grounded, and belly dance is up on your toes. So it's a little bit lighter and up, where hula is down. And then with belly dance, you could put on any song. I could belly dance to it. With hula, I'm telling the story of the song. So I can't just freestyle
Yeah,
hula, you know? So there's more flexibility with belly dance when that, as far as that goes. But hula, at least in Iowa, we are it as far as like halaus. So if somebody wants entertainment, it's pretty much us. So we have a monopoly.
how long have you been associated with Aloha Wind?
For about 23 years, since 2000.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's hubbed in Des Moines, so that probably controls the participation of members and stuff.
Yeah, I think the furthest member lives in Ames, which is about 45 minutes north. So we get like some folks who will move here into smaller towns and they're like pretty far away and they want to dance hula, but they're like an hour or 2 hours away or something. Or like I just got a call for a summer camp. They work with kids with disabilities and they wanted us to drive up. It's like 3 hours away. And I was like, that's going to be like an 8 hour day. Drive 3 hours, dance, then drive 3 hours back. Like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because not this past celebration, but last year's celebration, I think. Was it? It was the one that was in the fall. It's not normally in the fall,
Yeah.
but they had it
Yep.
in the fall.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I drove down for it,
Mm-hmm.
walked around, ate, did my thing, and then drove back. So that was 6 hours of driving total for me,
Yeah.
not counting the time in celebration. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you think, was it worth it? I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, I probably gripe on the way up there, but then when I'm there and people have no exposure to Hawaiian culture beyond Lilo and Stitch and Moana, then it's worth it to me for them to have accurate education about the Hawaiian culture versus what they've seen on TV.
Yeah. Let's see. I was looking at some of the notes you had sent me earlier.
I think I talked about,
Talk about the out of the darkness walk.
oh, yeah. So my father struggled with depression. So he died in 2004. I mean, we didn't know probably wasn't clinically diagnosed until maybe February of that year, and then he died in June. So I had met through support groups and things, other survivors who've lost loved ones to suicide. And I'm just a doer. That's how I like to do stuff. So we had this walk. We'd heard of the Out of the Darkness walks. So there's a national foundation called American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. They do these every year. And so we decided to start one in Iowa. And we started it, the first one up in Ames. Only had about 200 people. Probably a quarter of them were Hawaiian friends of mine who came. Chris Kiahi came. The Apanas came. So we did it. It was small. We went around a lake and did a balloon release and all of that. And then I think it was the next year we did another one. So every year it's gotten bigger. And every year, we started with the first year of playing is Israel Kamakawiwa Oles Over the Rainbow, because everybody recognizes that, but I wanted some Hawaiian element for my dad. So probably the second year I started dancing that hula. And so every year since then, I think we're in year 17. I've
Oh,
been dancing. I've been dancing the hula, or my halal will come and dance the hula, because I like that there's I like to have that Hawaiian element because that's my father, and that's who I'm walking for. And so many people recognize the song, and you just hear the first bit of it with the ukulele, and just everyone starts to tear up, and then we start dancing, and then they're just like, oh my God. But people understand from that, which I try to teach people when we dance hula, like that is how I connect to ancestors, is through dancing hula. So by doing that, that's how I can connect with my dad.
your participation in the Out of the Dark Walk, does it have a fundraising side to it or no?
Mhm. It does. So people can, you don't have to pay to walk, but many people raise money. Half of the money goes to the Iowa chapter to do stuff with suicide prevention locally, and half of it goes to the national level to do work for suicide prevention.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
17
So
years, boy, that's
yeah, and it just keeps growing, and so there's mixed feelings about it. So it's nice that it grows and people are knowing about it. The sad thing is it's new people that I see each year. So that's more and more people that are dying by suicide.
mm,
You know what I mean? So it's not like the same families are coming year after year. I mean, some do, but typically it's those that have recently lost somebody and they form a big team and they show up and they have t-shirts and all of that. So we have like a memory wall where you can bring a picture of your loved one that's died by suicide. And I swear each year I go and I look at that, like some of those ages are 10, 12, and then just like, oh my gosh. So just the state of our mental health nationwide, to think of a 10-year-old being that distraught that
yeah,
they
and
want
it scares me. I don't know a lot of the ins and outs of it, but they talk about how they try to tie it with how young kids are getting caught up in just social media in general,
to. Hmm.
because then you get the online bullying and the shaming but it scares me too because like you talked about with your dad and not being able to recognize early signs, I think off the top of my head, just celebrities like Robin Williams,
Hmm.
that Popolo guy Twitch. I mean,
Hmm.
beautiful
Right.
wife, you got a life that's going on, you have two kids.
Mhm.
How in the world does your brain get to that point where you say, Paul?
Right.
So not being able to recognize it scares me because I think to myself, I could have family members or people close to me, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So my dad didn't talk. Well, I didn't know much about Hawaiian culture. But he just didn't talk in general. So you certainly, and he was in Vietnam, never. So there, we learned so much from my uncle because we didn't even know that my uncle and my dad served together until my dad's funeral when the family came over from Hawaii talking to my uncle and he's telling us stories and we're like, what? We had no idea because he never talked about it, never talked anything about it, which is part of the issue when you have traumatic things happen, but you don't talk about it with anyone. Then it just allows your brain to spin out of control.
Scary.
Give you chicken skin.
Yeah. So what's the farthest you guys Aloha Wind has traveled to perform?
Probably Sioux City, which was about 3 hours. The Hard Rock Cafe up there.
Okay.
There. I mean, I'll get calls from like Omaha or Kansas City. So the neighboring states, I'll get calls and I'll say, pretty sure there's a halau in your state. Find one that's closer. because I think the halaus within those states, should have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And I don't want to
It's
drive that.
just such a operation to mobilize your crew, take them a long distance, carry all your stuff.
Right, right. Yeah. And there's some larger, like Indiana's got a pretty big halau that's pretty active. So that's what's nice. When you have a big halau, then you can do like half of them can do Tahitian, half can do hula, you can do costume changes. You just have more people to work with. We're like teeny tiny. So so I'm like, find a bigger halau. Chicago's got halaus, Minnesota's got halaus, Wisconsin's got halaus.
What's current membership size of Aloha Wind?
Performing, like when we are paid, there's about 3 to 4 of us that do that. But if we look at, so I every Sunday I teach hula, and that's just open to anybody. I don't charge anything. It's just people that want to get up and move. So I've got some people that have been coming religiously for 5 years straight. We probably have about 15 or so people that do that. Some have no interest in ever performing. They just enjoy learning. They enjoy the dance. They enjoy the culture, and that's totally fine.
Because about how many did you guys have on stage at Celebration?
We had,
Pretty good number, it seemed like. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah. So that's the group that, so when we do like celebration where we don't get paid, it's a free thing. Or we'll go to the White Eagle powwow that happens in September. So then the whole group can kind of do that. But when somebody's hiring us for an event, um, then we have just a different level, performance level that people have to be at because some people are paying good money. So, they want to know that you know what you're doing.
yeah,
At least I would if I was paying money. I want you to know what you're doing.
absolutely.
Yeah, because I like my money. So
So when was the last time as a family that you guys went to Hawaii?
last summer,
Oh, okay. How long did you guys stay?
like 15 days, long time. So we went Big Island. My auntie, I have an auntie on the Big Island. And then my halau actually went a lot, some of the, not all, but many of the members of the halau came. And then we went to the different um, areas where some of the hulas that we know were written about. So we went to like Akaka Falls. We went to Mauna Kea. We know a couple hulas about Mauna Kea. So we were able to do those on the Mauna. So we did that for a while. And then most of my family is on Oahu. So we went over to Oahu and got to see some of them there. So I have family on Maui, Oahu, and Big Island.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But it got expensive. It used to be cheaper to hop from one island to another. Just not.
Yeah, I think post-COVID, it seemed like they're trying to make up for income they didn't make or something. I went June of 22 to take my mom's ashes back to Molokai, and at the time, I don't know if they were trying to just generate more business, but one of the airlines was putting out some really dirt cheap fares, but I mean they happened after I landed, so that's how recent it was. It wasn't like a big,
Mm-hmm.
program. It was like just popped up on the TV and in the papers, and
Hmm.
you know, jump on it quick because it's not gonna last.
Yeah. No, it was more expensive than what I had remembered it being. And then thankfully my auntie lets us use her car because car rental prices, that was more than flying there, trying to rent a car.
And when it helps to have family is when they can help you eliminate the lodging costs.
Mhm, mhm.
Lodging expenses are like holy moly.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think my auntie's neighbor was just happened to be out of town. And she was like, I'll just give her a call, see if we can use her house. And she was like, yeah, we can use my house. Like, wonderful. You don't know who we are, but we're going to stay in your house.
It's stories and things like that that I hear that you get used to living in Hawaii and you don't realize how special something like that is till you get somewhere where it doesn't happen, you know. I mean, I'd be hard pressed to find anybody 100 miles from me that would let strangers stay in their house, you know.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was like no question. They were like, of course. Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, kids, don't touch anything because this isn't our house. I don't want to break anything. And but
Uh,
yeah.
what kind of work does your husband do?
He's a city planner for the city of Des Moines. So when new businesses want to open up, they have to run their plans by him, and he tells them what they need and how they need to change it and all that kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That seems time consuming.
it can be. Yeah, because everyone thinks that their project is the most important, and so they want their work done first. So he gets a lot of angry people, a lot of architects, a lot of engineers, a lot of business owners that don't understand that there are other people that also want to have their businesses open. So
Yeah.
he's only one person. Yeah, his job is a lot more stressful than mine for sure.
Now, here's a question I'd like to ask of people who are in your case where the journey did not initially begin in Hawaii, but
Mhm.
are you and your family open-minded eaters?
That's a good question. Um, well,
Like
there's
poke, out of the four of you, how many of
yeah,
you enjoy poke?
there's thing, Kermit, that people find I don't know what frustrating. I suppose if you love seafood and then you find out that you have a Hawaiian who does not like seafood, and my husband doesn't like seafood. So yes, go to Hawaii a lot and we don't eat the seafood that's there. But we do love lily koi. We do love all the fruits. I love anything that's baked, malsadas. I love all of that stuff. Just not the seafood. Yeah,
It happens.
I know. I know. People are just like, what? You can get the best seafood in the world, and you no. Oh, sorry. And if yeah, and my kids are even worse. Yeah, they're even worse. I remember going to stay with my grandmother in Waimanalo. We were, I think it was when I was 12. And she lives on Kalanianiole Highway. So she lives right down from McDonald's. And my mom and my brother and I walked down to McDonald's and got food. And my dad was so mad because my grandmother had made food. And how dare we walk down to McDonald's and get something else? Like, I don't know.
Oops.
All right. Yeah. But fried rice all day long. Love that. What else do I have? Shoyu chicken and long rice.
Okay.
Hmm.
What stunned me, and it was my second time, so I was more stunned the first time, is there were so many Asian nationalities at Celebration that I had never ever heard of before.
Hmm.
In fact, until I moved to Minnesota in 2009, I'd never heard of Hmongs.
Right.
Like, where are they from? You know, and just I forget what they were called, the ones from Nepal and places like that.
Nepalese, Burmese, Karen. Yeah, Minnesota has the most. The way what I've heard is they've had the most refugee populations. As
Yeah,
far
you go up to the
yeah,
cities that you really notice a difference,
mhm. And the
or
most Hmong.
when
Where
it's
Iowa has, we have a big population of Tai Dam, and we're getting a lot of refugees from Burma, but they're from the different ethnic groups of Karen, Chinny, I believe. So I have a lot of students at DMAC. DMAC has an English language learner program, so we get a lot of immigrant and refugee students, and then some of them will end up learning about human services in my program.
The
So that's
first one
really great.
you said Idom.
Thai Dom.
Idom. Where are they
Thai
from?
Dom. Thai Dom, I believe they fall like in between Laos and Thailand. And they're, from what I've heard from folks, is they're like a mobile community. So they don't have like a country, kind of like the Hmong. I believe the Hmong are the same. Um, so they were like a, what's the word I want to say? I keep saying mobile, but anyway, like a
Like
mobile,
nomads, kind of.
kind of, yeah, kind of like that. Yeah. Um, and so we have a large Thai Dom population and Vietnamese, because our governor was one of the first to allow the refugees from Vietnam to come over. Hmm. Yeah. So when we go to Hawaii, um, he loves spicy food because not that all Mexican people love spicy food, but he's Mexican and he loves spicy food. And we'll go to like a Thai restaurant and they'll ask him how hot he wants it. He said, as hot as you can get it. And then like the cooks will look out the door, like, whoop. He'll make food for my family, and my aunt is just like, "Oh, what is this so hot, Ilima? So hot." It's like guacamole. Like what? No, no, it's so hot. It's so hot, girl. My husband's like, you do not have spice in Hawaii. Like, yeah, well,
Yeah. Or not like some of those. I've had pho in a couple places where I mean, I couldn't even make it through the bowl. I can't. I'm not super into spicy, but I do enjoy spicy. But sometimes it's just over the top.
yeah. I'm like ground pepper spicy. Like that's my spice level. It's pretty low. I don't have. Hmm.
Who cooks more, you or your husband?
Ah, we both do, but who cooks more? Probably ethnic food would be my husband. So all his Mexican, all his family's here in Iowa. So so that's probably as far as our children go, the food that they're more familiar with would probably be Mexican food. But what I found interesting is they know a lot about their Hawaiian culture, and I don't know if they're more proud of it, but it's so different in Iowa that to tell somebody you're Hawaiian is like, ooh, ooh, like that's really special. It's not special to be Mexican in Iowa. We have a lot of Mexicans in Iowa, you know. So I find that they tend to kind of gravitate a little bit more to their Hawaiian side. And I think it's because of kind of like people have a stereotype of Hawaii is the most beautiful place on earth, and I want a vacation there. And they don't know much else about it. And so when you tell somebody you're Hawaiian, it's like, oh wow, I don't know if it's like seeing a unicorn or something, but it's like their demeanor changes. They like just relax.
So your hyphenated last name, Young, is
Mhm.
whose name?
Young is my maiden name. So here's the story that I've heard from my family. I am still trying to verify this. So Young would have been my grandfather's last name. There was a British man, John Young, who came over. This is when King Kamehameha was reigning. They were, trying to take over Hawaii. That didn't pan out well for them, you know. So he was captured, but he was allowed to be an advisor to King Kamehameha. So stayed with the family, ended up marrying into the family and having children. So that's the story of where the Young comes from. Because my grandmother's a Kaipo.
Okay.
But I went to actually Bishop Museum to try and find out a little bit more. Because when you look at the family tree of the monarchy, it ends with Prince Edward, who died as a child. So in that lineage, the Young side kind of dies off. But then when I talked to some historians at Bishop Museum, it was not uncommon for people to have mistresses. So of course, John Young had some mistresses. So that's the question, is if that's where, if it's true, if that's where the Young kept going with the mistresses and the children, and but that wouldn't be in your royal lineage chart, because that would not look good to talk about all the mistresses that people have.
We discovered some of those hidden secrets when I was helping my dad prove his lineage to get to qualify for Hawaiian Homes.
Mm.
Got back a couple, 3 or 4 generations, and you start seeing stuff that how many families did this guy actually have?
Mm-hmm.
You see the tree suddenly go whoop and 3 or 4 roots,
Hey, wait a minute. Yeah, I wish my dad was like starting the Hawaiian homestead application prior to him dying. So that's what's really sad too, is that he didn't complete that. So I know, but I have an auntie and a cousin that gets a benefit from it. So I don't know. I've heard rumors that they were going to change the quantity, the blood quantum for it, but I think there's so many people on the waiting list. I don't know how they could even, why they would even change it really.
And then the name Dunn, where is that from?
So that's my husband's last name. So his father is Irish. So his father's last name is Dunn and his mother is Lozano. So we're both like Hapa. Yeah. So we go to Mexico and people think I'm Mexican. We go to Hawaii, people think he's Hawaiian.
Well, that's a good pairing, though. At
That
least,
works out well.
yeah, at least you're recognized somewhere.
Right. Yeah. They'll look at him and be like, hey, you local? And then people will speak Spanish to my daughter and to me. And she's like, why do people keep speaking Spanish to me? I'm like, because you look like you speak Spanish. So they just assume that you do.
Yeah, I got a lot of that when I lived in San Antonio.
Mm-hmm, I bet.
So just out of necessity, I had to pick up. I wasn't fluent by any means, but you just had to be able to understand and answer some basic questions like, where's the restroom and
Yeah.
where should I park my car and what exactly is this? And so instead of looking foolish every time they hit you with
Right.
other language.
Right. No, that's good. Yeah. Where was I just at? Oh, I was at a Latino conference, and actually myself and Trevi. So Trevi is Marshallese, and she was running the Pacific Islander tent down at Celebration. So we were both at this conference, and it's for Latinos in education. And so we were both joking with each other that we should have made T-shirts that said "We are not Latino," because we don't tell you how many people came up to us and just assumed that we were. We're like, we are not Latino. I know it's hard to believe that you can be brown in Iowa and be a Pacific Islander, but no, we're not.
Well, I'm kind of surprised though. I mean, the population in Des Moines, because Stacy, right?
Yep, yep.
Yeah. So, and then I talked to a guy who's got a little uh food place going on in, is it Cedar Falls, I think?
Cedar Rapids, yeah. I haven't been up there, but yeah, Bobby, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he says, there's a good couple of handfuls that come in to eat at his place. So Iowa probably has its share. Just
We have 0.2% of
that's
our population.
the official count.
It's like me and Stacy and Bobby.
Do the math. It works out
Yeah,
to quick
yeah. There's just a few of us.
too.
Yeah.
Um, growing up then, how long have you lived in Des Moines?
Well, I was in Norwalk till I graduated high school, went to Iowa City to go to school. So at least 20 plus years, a little over 20 years. I mean,
Okay.
I've been in the area. Norwalk's not far from Des Moines, so I would say the majority of my life I've been in the area.
Would you say you've met less than 100 Pacific Islanders in the area
Um,
over the last 20?
no, you know what? We had a luau. Gosh, my kids were little. Um, and we had a luau and I hosted at our house. I think I had every Hawaiian in Iowa in my house. There was like 65 people. But you know where they came? A lot were like students down in Lamoni. So Graceland College, they do a lot of recruiting. They used to, I don't know if they do anymore, but they would recruit a lot on the islands for volleyball. Um, Creighton University would do the same thing. They would recruit on the islands and then like Grandview. So I had a good number of just students who were like, first time in Iowa, and not only in Iowa, but like they're in small town Iowa. Like Lamoni, when you pull up to the Dollar General, so does a horse and buggy pull up next to you. So if you are coming from Hawaii and you know nothing about Iowa, and that's where you're going to school, I mean, you can imagine just like thinking, what planet did I just sign up to go on to? Where they don't even have cars. So, so they used to have a good club of Pacific Islander students who would have luau's and get-togethers and stuff. I don't know if they still have um, that strong unit or not. Um, but that's where I would run into younger Hawaiians and then just people who've come like Stacy and some of the folks up in like the Storm Lake area. So there's just kind of it's like different waves of people that come. Like I've been here, my entire life. So there was a group of folks that came over in like the 70s and kind of implanted themselves. And then there's just been different waves. Um, so yeah. And people tend to find me through hula, really. They'll just like Google and they'll reach out to me on Messenger and say, hey, I just moved here from Hawaii and used to dance hula and would love to get back into doing it again. So
Matt
yeah.
and I have had the discussion sometimes when you're out in public and you see a person that you think might be from Hawaii, you're thinking, so then he says what he does is he usually gets closer so he can hear them talk.
Mm.
With that pigeon
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
bound to slip out somewhere and give it away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My friends, the Apanas, their father Mel used to stalk people. So if he saw your car, you have a sticker or something, like he would wait for you to come back out and he would find where you were at. And that caused him some trouble. Like one time, I think him and my dad had met a guy who was Hawaiian and they were like, come on over to the house. And it was just like not somebody you should have invited over to your house. Like, so they just had to learn, like, just because you're Hawaiian doesn't mean you need to invite them to your house. Like, do some do some research, talk to them a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, because every community or every uh ethnic group, has their good and bad. I have people who, when they find out I'm from Hawaii, they'll talk about bad experiences they had when they visited Hawaii. I said, hey, it's no different. I mean,
Right.
Chicago, Detroit, LA, Honolulu. I mean, they're big cities, and you're gonna have, you cannot have everybody be nice.
Nope.
Then
Nope.
then something's wrong.
Right. Right. Yeah. I didn't realize that people thought, see, my family grew up in Waimanalo, so I'm used to Waimanalo. And when I meet people that are from Oahu and they would come over, hey, where you from? Where your family from? And I'm like, Waimanalo. Oh, like that's rough. I'm like, really? What? I never, that never occurred to me that it was a rough area, but that's kind of the response I would get, like, oh, Waimanalo.
You get that when you say "why and I" or
Yeah, like
faces. They just
no big deal. But fine with me.
yeah. But it helps to have a family base there too, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's all I ever knew growing up. And now I think Waimanalo, it's probably been 5 years or so, but their beach was voted #1, which is bad just because there's more people that visit it. So, it's like 2 blocks from my grandma's house, and we would walk there, and there's never anyone there. And now that it's got that #1 beach, there's always people there.
Yeah, that's the same way with any kind of attractive spot like cool hiking trails or different spots like that where you used to be secluded and you could enjoy nature. You go there now and there's like
Hmm.
folks sitting around with McDonald's bags and
Yeah, those people that went down to McDonald's instead of eating the food that the grandmother cooked for them. She was not happy either.
Hopefully you were able to make it up to her though.
So yeah, yeah. But you had to there's so many people in the house though that when she cooked, like if you weren't right there, you might not be getting any food because there's so many people. So she passed maybe 4 years ago. So before she passed, though, it was her, my auntie. There's about 3 or 4 generations living in one house.
Wow.
Not a big house, but
But I kind of like that situation because I think it's valuable, but it doesn't happen very often when grandchildren get to really get to know their grandparents,
mhm,
from daily contact or whatever. I mean,
mhm.
there's a lot to learn from that generation over.
Yeah. So my cousins, of course, who live with my grandmother, they know her way better than I ever did or could. I just am too far away. So
Yeah.
they had a completely different relationship with her than I did.
How about with your kids? Do they get to spend lots of time with their grandparents?
Yeah. So my mother is still alive, and then my husband's mother's still alive. Both our fathers have passed, so they see their grandmothers all the time. And I always have to tell them, like, you don't understand. They take it for granted. Like I didn't grow up with grandparents. So my grandparents on my mother's side had died when I was maybe 2. So I never knew them. And then my grandparents on my dad's side lived in Hawaii. So they would write letters, we would call, but I never got to really, really know them. So I
Yeah,
didn't grow up with grandparents. I don't know what that's like to have a grandparent come to your school program or watch you play sports or that you just call to talk to. Like I didn't have that experience that they get to have.
yeah. I hope they get to the point where they really understand the value and the specialness because there's tons of people who never do.
Mm-mm. No, I hope they do too. Um, because yeah, just being able to drive over to your grandmother's house and be there in 10 minutes.
Oh, that close. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're close. They're both really close. So, and my mother watched my daughter Kaikala until she was 2, and then my mother-in-law watched my son until he was 2. So my daughter has a strong relationship with my mother, and then my son has a strong relationship with my mother-in-law because those 2 grandmothers raised them until they were 2, or
Yeah,
not, but watched them while we went to work and did all that kind of stuff.
yeah. The built-in daycare.
Mm-hmm. That was very, very, very nice and appreciated. I didn't, yeah. I was worried about the whole daycare where you can't talk and strangers are taking care of you, and I hope they're being nice. So we were fortunate that we had mothers that were available to do
Yeah.
that.
And then now it's so controlled and expensive that I don't know how young families do it now. I mean,
I don't know.
sometimes I hear the prices they're paying, and you got to bring the food. They don't even feed the kids while they're there, and I'm going, wow, what's the money for? It's like,
Yeah, I don't know. Because then you look at how much the daycare providers make, and they don't make a bunch of money. I don't know where it goes,
yeah,
but it is expensive.
get eaten up by bureaucracy and insurance and all those kind of
Mm-hmm.
things that factor in once something becomes needed or popular or
Right.
important in that way.
Yeah.
So what do you guys normally do? You work 5 days a week or more?
I work 5 days a week, but like I teach, so I'm teaching over the summer. Both of my classes are online, so I don't need to be in the office for that. So that's nice. I have that flexibility. So I'm probably in the office 3 days a week and then work from home like 2 days a week. And my husband does the same. He works home 2 days a week and he's in the office 3 days a week.
Do you guys like to plan weekend family events?
Yeah, we're always doing stuff, but as the kids have gotten older, they are less excited about hanging out with us. So like we're gonna take the camper and go camping this weekend. The kids won't be going. They have absolutely no interest in that, and I don't feel like listening to complaining children all weekend. So
But I know
they,
there's a tinge or more of sadness though when you get to the point
oh
where the
yeah,
kids are like really they've graduated and start taking bigger, longer, farther steps away.
yeah.
Got a grandson that's in the cities 2.5 hours away. I've got one, a Marine in Okinawa.
Mm,
So, they just get to the point where you're like, oh, I'm so used to seeing them
I know.
weekly or daily, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, now you gotta Zoom or Skype with them to even get to see them.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that at all.
The birds
Yeah,
leave the nest.
I know.
So
Hopefully they'll.
so 16 and 14, that's like junior and freshman. Is that
Yep, yep, yep. Hmm.
so hard to keep track of?
Yeah.
Just kind of think generally they graduate either just before 18 or close to 18. So
Hmm. Yep. So my daughter has 2 years left, and my son will just be starting freshman year next year.
okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any special goals for yourself for the next
Mm.
2, 3 years?
Uh, to sleep without having back pain. Um, to to wake up without having back pain. I don't know what our goals are. We're going to Alaska here in 2 weeks, so that's exciting.
Alaska?
Yeah. So we always, when we travel, I feel like we always travel to like tropical places. I was like, let's go somewhere completely different. So we're going to Alaska. And then my husband's looking up stuff and he was like, look at this. They're going to have like a luau in Alaska. And I was like, well, we got to go to the luau and watch hula dancers in Alaska.
Now, this Alaska trip, are you doing like a cruise or
Nope, we're driving.
wow?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah. So, hopefully we don't see bears because I don't know what to do with bears. I heard that it gets dark at 11:30 for just a little bit, and then the sun comes up at 3 in the morning because they're all light in the summertime, so that'll be different.
Wow.
Yep. But I have a friend over there now, and she was like, "Okay, you got to go to this Samoan place, you got to go to this Korean place, you got to go to." so, so I've already got my places to go eat. So
Then
she's already scoped it out for me.
where is she from? Is she?
She's from Iowa, actually. Well, originally she's from the Philippines and she's over there for work.
Okay.
So I said, hey, I'm going over there in 2 weeks. Tell me what I should do. And she was like, okay, so there's this Samoan place and it's called this. And then there's this really good Korean barbecue place and it's over here. I'm like, oh, okay. Nice. You did that for me. So I didn't have to do that work.
And then you actually have, someone who's probably sampled, so they're not going off
Exactly.
the hype or the branding or anything like that.
Right. I mean, I can't even tell you how much money we waste on vacations, mostly because my kids are super picky. But you think you're gonna like the food, and then you get it, and like $20 later per plate, you're like, "Ooh, I don't really like that."
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a guessing game.
it is a guessing game. Why we go to the grocery store when we vacation, so cook our own food.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, what else would you like to share with the world, Ilima?
With the world, your reach goes out to the world. That's great.
Cross fingers.
Um, I don't know. I think what I have so there's only 0.2% Hawaiians in Iowa, right? So the positive side to that though, I guess, is that I get to provide education. So I go to schools, I go to nursing homes, and even just in my college classes, get to teach people about Hawaiian culture, and they have no clue. So they're usually starting from zero and they know nothing. So it's nice. It's disheartening when I ask people, do any of you know how Hawaii became the 50th state? Doesn't matter how old they are. Most people don't know. They're like, I have no idea. And then I tell them and they're like, oh, well, that's awful. Like, well, and that's what's sad is that that's not a part of your US history class because Hawaii is a part of US history. So I'm fortunate that I have the platform and the ability to provide that education to hopefully kind of dispel some of those myths and stereotypes and to for people to understand that Hawaiians are so much more than a place on your bucket list to travel on vacation. Like we have such a rich history and culture and amazing people that have done wonderful things that can navigate by looking at the stars and just so many things that nobody gets taught. I mean, I didn't get taught that. I had to kind of learn that through my own research. So it's really humbling when I get to go to like a elementary school. I remember this. There was one girl and she was just glued to every word I was saying. Most kids are like kind of here, kind of there, kind of spaced out. It's not until I say, anybody seen Moana? And then they're all like, man, I'm like, that's my cousin. They're like, what? That's your cousin. Uh, but this little girl was just like hanging on every word I said. And then she came up to me afterwards and she was like, I'm Samoan. And she was just, you could tell she was just so happy to have somebody else that she could connect with, that kind of looked like me and kind of sounded like me. And was like, yeah, this is why I go out and do all these talks that I do so that little girls and little boys can feel seen when you're in predominantly white Iowa. Or
That's
if you have brown skin, everyone thinks you're Mexican, that you can feel seen.
Wow, that's a cool story. But you're right though that education is so important because when you say stereotypes, there's a lot of them out there. When Malia and I were talking, she talked about they expect coconut bras and
Mm-hmm.
grass skirts and
Yep.
nobody has the pareos or the quilted skirts or the more authentic stuff, and that's in their mind, it's locked in.
Yep. I just did an event this afternoon it's a tree service. They cut down trees, but their corporate office had wanted me to come and teach hula. And so I said, what do you know about hula? Grass skirts and coconut bras? I said, do you see that on me? No, and you never will. I said, that's Hollywood. That is not Hawaiian culture. Sorry. You don't want to see me in a coconut bra anyway, but that's like the first thing out the gate, like, let's squash what you think, and I'm like, you can't, it's not your Dollar Tree lays and your grass skirts. And when you flap your arms around trying to do the hula, let me tell you, it's spiritual. Like, it's a spiritual dance. So, and then they just kind of, you could tell they're like, and that's not my point, is for them to feel waves of guilt and shame, because you don't know what you don't know. But now that I've told you that, I want you to rethink next time you want to have that backyard luau. And you want to emulate my culture that you don't know a thing about. And you want to put on your coconut bra and your grass skirt and you want to get drunk and act like you're hula dancing. Like, nah. I said, it's like serious. So I was like telling about Mary Monarch. I'm like, it's some serious stuff. I've never been in a halal like that, but I've heard of those and I know how much they work and how hard they work. And to have someone kind of trivialize that, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think people do it out of malice. They've just never thought of it. It's never occurred to them that that's a culture and a group of people, and that's a study, and that's a training, and that's a skill. And I have to remind people when they call and hire me to do different events, like, can you come to my daughter's birthday party? And I give them my price. Oh. In their mind, it was going to be like $25. I'm like, you don't know how long I've worked to do this. Like, this is hard. This isn't, I don't just throw something on and run out the door. So people need to appreciate other people's culture and the work and time that they put into that, and reflect that in how they reward them for doing it.
Yeah, and it's that way with anything where somebody put it in terms of just a professional skill like a plumber or an electrician, or I mean, there's
Right.
a lot of knowledge and a lot of learning, and he didn't just
Right.
born knowing how to do it. So
Yeah. Hey, can you come fix my toilet for $25? You would never do that to a plumber. Yeah, but you want to try and do that with me.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, well, this has been a good time. I want to thank you so
Yeah,
much for
thank you.
contacting me and letting me know. And I wish next time I'll know better. When I see you guys on stage, I'll wait till you guys come off and then we can talk
Yeah.
stories some more.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Big mahalo and many blessings to your family as you move
Thank
forward.
you. You as well.
And definitely not goodbye, but a hui ho. Until
Yes.
again.
Hui ho malama pono.
Raja.
All right. Thank you.
Here. Yeah. Be
Bye.
safe.